Wrestlers don't always look the part at the start of their careers, but most eventually slim down, bulk up, and fill out, especially if they join the WWE. Here are the promotion's 10 most extraordinary body transformations. Transform your own life and follow the Sportster on YouTube by hitting the subscribe button now. Hardcore Holly. Take a second and Google Sparkplug Holly, and you'll find photos of a mid-90s Bob Holly, probably wearing some sort of black and white checkered flag racing attire and rocking what we can only refer to as a wrestling version of a dad bod. In other words, he was in shape, but not necessarily great shape. Yes, that's right, Bob Holly was once soft and pale with very little muscle definition, not to mention quite the coif of long curly dark hair. By the time he became Hardcore Holly in the late 90s with the WWE, however, he was transformed and he made himself into a wrestler whose appearance matched his moniker. In addition to ditching the racing suit, singlets, and long pants in favor of spandex shorts, Holly also packed on some enormous, bulging muscles and buzzed off most of his long hair and dyed the remainder blonde. Want to quickly lose your jobber label like Holly? This is what you have to do. Plus, his new and improved physique helped extend his career, as Hardcore won his last WWE Tag Team Championship as recently as 2007 when he was paired with Cody Rhodes at the age of 44. John Morrison. Ever see John Morrison's audition for WWE's Tough Enough 2 back in 2004? Don't get us wrong, the guy was in good shape, but he still didn't look much different than your regular 20-something-year-old college kid, so it's not surprising he didn't make it onto the show. Morrison later successfully tried out for Tough Enough 3 and was noticeably bigger than before, and over the next few years, his muscles grew larger, his frame grew wider, and his hair grew longer, catapulting him from student to stud before our very eyes. By the time Morrison became a tag team champion in 2007, he actually looked the part and even appeared on the cover of Muscle and Fitness in 2010. Morrison's improved physique was a big part of victories in the ring, and it turned him into one of the most successful Tough Enough winners in the competition's history. Morrison has since won the ECW World Heavyweight Championship once, the Intercontinental Championship 3 times, and has also held both the WWE Tag Team Championship and the WWE World Tag Team Championship. Morrison stepped away from WWE in 2011 to let some injuries heal, but he can still be seen competing with Mexico's Lucha Libre AAA worldwide. For those of you that love ad-free viewing and free things, we are excited to announce the Premium Network. The Premium gets you early access to videos from the Sportster, CBR, The Gamer, and many other great channels. Literally, thousands of videos in one place with ad-free browsing. How sweet is that? Sign up for free at the Premium by clicking the link to start binge-watching videos from your favorite channels today. Rey Mysterio. When Oscar Gutierrez, better known as Rey Mysterio, made his WCW debut in the late 90s, he was billed as 5'6" and 160 pounds, as both of these numbers were probably exaggerations. After all, few people of those dimensions would have been able to move with the quickness, agility, and high-flying style that Rey practiced on a nightly basis. By the time he signed with SmackDown in 2002, however, Mysterio was much stronger. His muscles were much more defined, and he looked like a totally different person. In fact, if it wasn't for a few identifying tattoos, some fans might have suspected it was a different athlete under the luchador mask, as if WWE hadn't tried to pull that one in the past. Then again, even Rey's tattoos have undergone some expansion, and he went from sporting just a few designs that dotted his arm and shoulders to an intricate collage of ink that now cover most of his chest, arms, shoulders, and abdomen. It's important to note that Mysterio didn't lose any of his quickness once he added mass, as his stronger muscles could still easily propel his expanded frame around the ring. You didn't think Rey Mysterio would quit executing complex splashes with perfection and ease, did you? Eddie Guerrero. After years of competing in Mexico and being an unprecedented jobber in WCW, Eddie Guerrero finally started to find some success in the late 90s, but was knocked out of action following a car accident on New Year's Day, 1999. When he returned to the ring 6 months later, his look was noticeably different, as Guerrero now sported biceps, triceps, delts, traps, and pecs that bulged much bigger than ever before, and firmly planted him in the heavyweight class. He also eventually chopped off his long mullet-like locks in favor of a shorter, spikier hairdo, finally possessing the proper physique to accompany his wrestling prowess. It's no surprise that Guerrero would land a WWE contract only 1 year later. Of course, Eddie was famously released in 2001 due to an addiction issue, but when he returned in a big bad way in 2002, and eventually he won a WWE title, a United States Championship, 2 European Championships, 2 Intercontinental belts, and 4 more as part of the tag team before his tragic death in 2005. One of the tag team wins actually came with the guy we just talked about, who also clearly knows a thing or two about extraordinary body transformations, Rey Mysterio. Chyna. Unlike most of the entries in this list, Joanie Laurer, aka Chyna, went through a transformation that didn't involve a massive bulk or a substantial slimming. Instead, she refined her physique around the time of her first WWE Intercontinental Championship win over Jeff Jarrett at No Mercy in 1999, going from hard and buff to a more defined, curvy, and feminine appearance in almost every way. Her face went from being much more square and wide in its shape to a visage that featured a slightly narrow chin and rounded jaw. While she originally framed her face with a rigid pulled back jet black ponytail with bangs, this was also altered in a style and color that was allowed to fall down her shoulders at times. Even her makeup was adjusted accordingly, as a way to complement and accentuate her natural beauty. And whether it was intentional or just an unintended result of feeling better mentally, Chyna started smiling more around the same time. Before we get to the next 5 body transformations, let's test your mind with a quiz question. Which incredibly strong wrestler recently celebrated his 40th birthday by deadlifting more than 600 pounds? Stay with us until the end for the answer. Bubba Ray Dudley. As you might expect with a guy named Bubba, Bubba Ray Dudley made his ECW debut in 1995 as a stuttering, overweight hillbilly and remained that way for some time. Although it made for an entertaining and somewhat unique gimmick, it's not the kind of personality and appearance that benefit a champion. And thus, it wasn't surprising when Bubba's look slowly began to change during his time with WWE from 1999 to 2005. It started with his clothes becoming less comical and nerdy when Dudley ditched his tie-dye and overalls in favor of biker gear and camouflage, and continued with a total physique transformation. Dudley began packing on more muscles and trimming much of his excess fat, emerging as a fitter, cooler, and much more intimidating wrestler. He continued to change after joining TNA in 2005 and looked totally different than when he returned in WWE in 2015, also opting to swap his goatee out for a full beard. Compared to his former self, Dudley is nearly unrecognizable today, especially since the only thing connecting all of his looks were the signature nerd glasses with white tape wrapped around the bridge. But he doesn't even wear those most of the time anymore. Scott Steiner. Scott Steiner has always been a big dude, but if one compares a photo of him from the late 80s to him in the 90s or after returning to the WWE in 2002, the transformation is remarkable. The man was formerly much paler, a bit softer, and has long dark mullet and a clean-shaven face. He was still quite large back in the day, and he would highlight his physique with brightly colored singlets and shorts. To summarize his overall look, although Scott would easily whoop most mortal men, he just didn't look all that threatening. The new and improved Steiner, on the other hand, is quite an intimidating figure. He cut his hair short and dyed it blonde before eventually covering it with a chainmail headgear. He also quickly became super tan and added muscle on muscle to the point where his huge, hose-sized veins look ready to pop at any moment. In addition, calling himself Big Papa Pump, Steiner also traded in his wrestling singlet for pants, added a two-tone goatee, and is rarely seen without a pair of wraparound sunglasses. Steiner recently joined Impact Wrestling, and we can assure you that the 54-year-old monster is still just as scary. Vince McMahon. After getting interested in weight training at an early age and working with wrestlers on a daily basis, Vince McMahon has been in impressive shape for most of his life. Of course, you wouldn't have noticed this in the first 2 decades of his career with the WWE, as he acted as an in-ring announcer and ringside commentator, and was always seen wearing a suit that covered up all the gains he had made at the gym. However, when he entered into a feud with Stone Cold Steve Austin in the late 90s and began getting more involved in the ring as his Mr. McMahon character, the boss finally had a chance to show off his impressive physique and subsequently stepped up his workout to become noticeably more muscular. After all, McMahon had to make it believable that he could go at 54 years old and win the 1999 Royal Rumble and eventually beat Triple H for his first and only WWE Championship. Given his admitted history with steroids, it's difficult to determine how much of his substantial physical improvement has been achieved naturally, but the results were nevertheless impressive enough to get the 70-year-old McMahon on the cover of Muscle and Fitness in 2014. The Big Show. Big Show's weight has repeatedly risen and fallen throughout his career like a yo-yo. A terrifying 7-foot-tall yo-yo, but a yo-yo. Part of this was due to the wrestler suffering from the same disorder that made Andre the Giant so large. In fact, by the time he was 12, Show had already measured 6 foot 2 inches tall, weighed in at 220 pounds, and even sported some chest hair. When he made his debut in WCW in 1995, he was actually billed as the son of Andre the Giant, which is probably one of the more believable gimmicks in wrestling history. After having surgery to correct his ailment in the early 90s, Big Show's metabolism plummeted, and several subsequent weight fluctuations saw him eventually go from looking like a basketball center to a sumo wrestler, and every step in between. After tipping the scale at more than 530 pounds in early 2016, Big Show enlisted the help of a trainer, increased his cardio by adding swimming and biking, began eating healthier, and looks better than ever after dropping at least 70 pounds. We also happen to prefer the cue ball head and bushy beard over the long-haired goatee look he used to sport back in the day. And number 1, The Rock. Contrary to popular belief and wrestling mythology, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson wasn't born as a magnificent physical specimen he is today. That would have been pretty painful for his mother, to say the least. Sure, he was large and muscular as a football player for the University of Miami Hurricanes in the early 90s, and even bigger when he joined the WWE in 1996. But when he returned to Raw for the first time in 7 years in 2011, he emerged as a different man. Thanks to more protein in his diet and additional trips to the gym, Johnson's muscles are much larger and more defined than ever before. They're so big that he looks like an exaggerated version of an old-timey cartoon strongman. All he needs is the curly mustache that those characters always seem to have. Speaking of hair, The Rock no longer has the flat top haircut with long sideburns that were once his trademark look, and instead completely shaved his head. He's also no longer as fond of wearing sunglasses, which were one of his most recognizable accessories. Finally, the younger version of The Rock has no ink whatsoever, but that has since changed in a big way. In a nod to his Samoan heritage, Johnson now sports an enormous pea tattoo that covers most of his left arm and left side of his chest. To celebrate his 40th birthday on April 23, 2017, a recently engaged John Cena deadlifted 602 pounds and posted the video on Twitter to prove it. Hey, did we miss any major WWE body transformations? Let us know in the comment section below, and be sure to like and share this video. For more wrestling videos, follow TheSportster on YouTube.